on the internet. No other persons are permitted to record the meeting unless specifically authorised by council to do so. May I ask all people to put their phones on silent or switch them off, please? People are having your say. Make sure your comments are relevant to a particular agenda item. The chairperson may withdraw the privilege to speak where a speaker makes personal remarks or criticisms or uses abusive or inappropriate language. Speakers do not enjoy any special protection arising from comments made during council and should therefore refrain from making any defamatory remarks or personal defamatory statements against any individual. Thank you. Apologies that everyone's present. Any declaration or disclosure for this meeting, please? None. Okay. Have your say. I believe Andrew Murray, no relation of mine, but Andrew Murray is coming for a 5-minute talk. Andrew, there's a... no, Robert. Robert, you doing it or Andrew? Oh, okay. So first we'll have Robert. So there's a, just speak into the microphone, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, councillors. I'm Bob Clark, I'm the chairman of NARAM, but we've asked Andrew to do the presentation today because Andrew, as many of you, if not all of you know, has been on the board up until a couple of months ago for about 10 years, most of which as chairman. He was actively involved in preparing this submission. He has the history of NARAM over that long period of time, which I think is relevant, and so he's going to do that presentation for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you all. I appreciate the time. Wanted to discuss two things. One is an annual increase in funding for the New England Regional Art Museum, and secondly, an adjustment to our 20-year funding agreement with Council that allows for it to be renewed or rolled over after 10 years so that we don't end up with a 1 or 2 year period of uncertainty. We want to continue to work with Council to ensure that NARAM has the required funding and resources to maintain a productive operation, safe custody of our art treasures, viable staffing structure and levels of sustainable growth. Jointly, we are custodians of 5,000 works of art that belong to the people of Armidale. Council clearly understands the importance and impacts of cultural infrastructure outlined in the Council's Art and Cultural Strategic Plan. You recognise that the arts and cultural activities are valuable to those that live in, work in, visit the region, and that they are part of a local identity and are fundamental to a cohesive, livable and attractive region that celebrates diversity. There are many reports and examples that demonstrate the vital economic, social and educational, even health benefits that come from communities having access to cultural institutions. That is why so many councils have built and continue to fund galleries, museums, libraries and historic buildings. Their impact and value to the community is much more than people just coming to look at art. One clear example of NARAM's benefit to the region and alignment with the Council's broader goals and strategies regards tourism and economic development. According to a recent Australia Council for the Arts report on arts tourism, the arts are a bigger draw card for tourists, especially international tourists, than wineries, casinos or sport. And they are one of the they are one of the draw cards that will attract tourists to travel outside of capital cities. Art tourists also stay longer to the places they visit and they're likely to spend more than other tourist types. In 2018, we welcomed 54,000 people to NARAM. 74% of the visitors came from outside Armidale. 33% were interstate, 8% were international travellers. The annual economic contribution of NARAM to Armidale GRP is estimated to be $3.86 million. Naram is a unique regional museum. We are generously supported, but also independent from council, where most regional galleries are council owned, run and funded in terms of their operational staffing requirements. In comparison to other regional galleries, Naram receives 40% less of its total operational budget from council. There is a 2017 benchmarking survey in your papers to support this point. The structural model that we work with in council is a good one. It's good for council and it's good for Naram. Naram is run more like a small business than a semi-government entity. We raise donations and engage with the community and volunteers that are in a way that council-run galleries find difficult. We have developed our own foundation which pays 4% of invested funds back to the museum each year. This will be $36,000 this year. We have a talented board, enthusiastic staff, we have tight financial control, we think long term, and more importantly, we add colour, light and enjoyment to our regional community. If council had to resume control of Naram again, as it had prior to 2008, the cost to council would be more than double. This is an unlikely scenario, but our existing and successful model cannot be starved of essential operating funds if it's to keep serving Naram Council and the community. We bring this up now because one of our current key funding sources since 2012 has been the Margaret Olley Art Trust, which provided $118,000 annually specifically towards staffing cost. This funding will only continue until 2020 when the trust will be wound up. This is an impending and critical funding concern for Naram, which without a viable replacement, this deficit will jeopardise our current operation and staffing structure by extension, our capacity to deliver high-value programs. Based on the impending deficit caused by the loss of the Margaret Olley funds, we need to maintain our unique viable operating model. We request that Council approves an annual funding increase of $150,000, which would amount to a total contribution of $488,000, and a further 20-year funding agreement that is rolled over every 10 years. We understand that Council's budget position, and we would like to modify our request to have increased funding approved this year, but not start until July 2020. This will give Council some breathing space and provide Naram with the certainty that we need to make forward commitments. Thank you for your time. How was that?
Thank you, Andrew. That was good. The number of visitors you've had, I didn't quite grab it. 54,000. Great. Thanks very much, Andrew, for your presentation. And thanks very much, Bob.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I'm remiss in that I should have declared a non-pecuniary interest in this matter as I had input into the preparation of the submission.
You're right with that, Jess? Councillors, confirmation of minutes. That was, I can't remember the last extraordinary meeting we had, which might have been 12 months ago. So, next on. So, no more minute. No notice of motion for this, but may I break? We've got the recommendations in front of you, but also in front of you is the updated sheet. There are some errors in numbers, and those numbers have all been corrected in the tables. So that's all in front of you here. So can I have a move and a second for the four-part recommendation, please? Councillor Witters. Councillor Morat. Councillor Witters.
Nothing at the moment. If I need to speak, I'll speak later.
Councillor Morat.
Same, Mr. Mayor. I'll have nothing to say at the moment.
Councillor O'Connor, you wish to speak for the motion?
No, I wish to make a request that item B1 be voted on separately. At the moment, you've got a huge number of matters included in a single motion. I'm only asking that B1 be separated and voted on separately, because I'm I'm in a difficult position. I'll have to vote against everything if I can't have that one separated.
Councillor, why don't we just take them in seriatim that we'll deal with A, B, C, D, etc. item by item? Well, not A item, but A first. So Councillor O'Connor, your microphone.
With great respect, Mr Mayor, that doesn't actually satisfy my request because you will then still be putting B as in Globo, which is 1, 2 and 3, and I wish to support all but 1.
Yeah, I agree with that, but
So
what I was
that's
going
my
to do is
request.
I was going to treat B as individual as well, but no one else has raised any other issue. So that's why I was dealing with A first. So any councillor wish to speak for? Okay. Can I get move in a second that we do treat this in seriatim in parts A, B, C, D, and that in part B, unless there's other councillors wish to separate them, we treat in seriatim 1, 2, 3. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Gray, Councillor Robinson, those in favour? Carried. Okay. So part A we're dealing with. So we've got, anyone who wishes to speak for that? Against? Otherwise I'll put that. Councillor O'Connor?
I just want to clarify that as my understanding of that motion is that we're endorsing the public exhibition only. On that basis, I'm not needing to speak further.
We're dealing with everything in part A. Okay, no other speak against. I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Part B, we're dealing with it in seriatim itself, that part 1, that the capital budget be endorsed. So, speaker for or against? Councillor O'Connor?
Yeah, I just have a number of concerns about this. Unlike some of my other colleagues here who are on council for the first time, I faced at the last election a challenge at pre-poll. Some people called me a do-nothing councillor. Now that was easily discharged by me because I could point to all the different things that I had personally worked towards, including capital projects like the airport and the industrial land development, to prove that I was not a do-nothing councillor. I believe that the community must have a say because this is quite a radical budget, and particularly the Capital Works program. As I think most of us are aware, there was a flurry of government largesse in 2016 and 17 and 18 in preparation for the state budget, the state election in March 2019. And there was a much reduced but nevertheless sound win by the coalition government then. And all I can say is that we are now recipients of a lot of grant money, which is tied to timetables to spend it, grant money for capital works. And we have before us a list of things that will be deferred that relate to some of that largesse that was, if I can put it neutrally, pre-election largesse. It's not likely to come again soon, and it will not come in the rest of our term on council. I therefore really wish to alert the community to look very carefully at this capital works program that's being proposed because it does defer quite a lot of expenditure for capital works puts it on the back burner basically. So I think we need to look at it, and that's why I, at the moment, am unsure that this is the best way forward. And if I can go back to the beginning and say I don't want to be seen eventually as a do-nothing councillor who... The budget bottom line is important, but we're looking under this scenario at in excess of $6 million cash reserves. I think that is something that the whole community needs to look at very carefully and decide whether some of those reserves might better be spent on getting some of those capital works underway in this next financial year.
Just to clarify, Councillor O'Connor, in my mind, what you just said, you just want this to go out to public consultation, which it will be.
Yep.
And that you're just trying to highlight to the public what's in the budget. Is that basically it?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't be supporting. I don't support scenario 2 as it currently stands. So, my view is that. But of course, I'm here representing the general public of Armidale Regional Council, and I defer to their views. So that's my personal view at the moment. I don't want to be called a do-nothing councillor, and I don't want to be part of a do-nothing council. But I recognise it's a balancing act. But I'm just concerned that maybe, you know, a lazy $6 million plus might be erring on the side of too much caution, given that we are the recipient at the moment of capital grant funding from the state government, which needs to be matched by our contribution so that those works can go forward as soon as possible. And I just want to let the community know that that's a decision that's going to be made in the next 30 days, and I really urge them to look at that.
I think they've got
the
that.
budget.
But what I'd hope to just clarify something, that Councillor O'Connor, you're not the only person that represents the community. There's 10 others as well. So
Absolutely,
can I
Mr. Mayor.
ask the
I'm so aware
CEO
of that.
to provide a little bit of clarification on that? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have 3 questions on this matter, and perhaps the CEO might like to address them too. First question is, are all 3 scenarios for capital budget going to go out on exhibition?
Councillor Tyler, can you ask all 3 questions so that the CEO can answer all 3 at one time? Or is it
What if I
your
prefer to
answer is
ask
dependent
one
on
at a
the...
time, Mr. Mayor?
Sorry?
For simplicity, I'd prefer to ask one at a time.
Okay.
But
Councillor Robertson, you turn your mic off,
it's,
please.
it's just a yes or a no, that one. 3 or 1 being put out on exhibition.
The scenario that's adopted by council in this meeting to go out to public consultation will go out for public exhibition. Just the one. Whatever is approved by the council.
I see that alone as a reason to not adopt this today, but we should embrace the community and see what they feel about which scenario they might prefer. After all, that I'm not speaking, sorry. The second question is if we're endorsing the operational plan and budget for exhibition. For consistency, wouldn't you think that we endorse the capital budget scenarios for exhibition? Why take a different tack with the capital budget? It's question 2.
Well, councillors, what will be going out to public exhibition are the scenarios, both operational plan and capital budget that is endorsed by this meeting of councillors.
Why, in relation to the operational plan and budget, are we endorsing for exhibition, but with the capital budget we're not? We're endorsing 1 of 3 scenarios, full stop. I think that's premature in advance of proper consultation.
Councillor, did you want me to answer that question? Would you like me to answer your question and to clarify? What the statutory requirement for this council to undertake is to adopt its operating budget and capital budget and operational plan position for the community for it to go on public exhibition. The fact that we have provided 3 scenarios doesn't take away your obligation to choose a position to go out for public exhibition.
CEO, can you just, Councillor O'Connor raised the issue about $5 million, was it $5 million, Councillor O'Connor? 6+ million. Can you clarify that, please?
Certainly, the cash position of $6 million puts us in the lowest 10% of unrestricted cash reserves of councils in New South Wales. It is not a strong unrestricted cash position. It represents approximately 2 months of operating costs, and it's not a comfortable position. Can I just reinforce that the capital budget scenario 2 that has been presented to the council is we wouldn't characterise it as do nothing. $40 million worth of capital works is a sizable capital budget. If we were to add the projects in the 2019-20 draft budget that have been funded into the 19-20 year, that would result in a negative general fund cash position of some $456,000 and an operating deficit of $1 million.
Councillor Murat, you've been trying to get attention for a while.
I don't stand out, it doesn't matter. I'd just like to endorse the comments of the CEO. As a councillor, I think it's our obligation to put council on a financially sound footing. For us to make a decision that's going to detract from us becoming financially sustainable is the wrong decision. As she pointed out, the cash reserves are at the lower end of the scale. It's like suggestions that we should go and spend that to do projects is like saying just go spend the grocery money on buying a new car this week and not being able to feed yourself next week. It's just stupid.
Thank you.
It is. Financially, it is just a silly comment. We need to get this council back on the right foot. We've got to bite the bullet. We've been put here by the ratepayers to bite the bullet. It's up to us to make a decision about what track we're going to take and then put that to the ratepayers. I'm not prepared to have a negative budget that's going to put this council in a position where it's going to go backwards rather than go forwards. Council and council staff have worked through a very well thought out program to try and put as much into the budget as we possibly can that we can meet within our resources and within our finances without putting anything at risk, but at the same time move council forward. And I don't believe we've got any other choice but to accept what's been put in front of us. There's a bit of tweaking we could do, maybe take some things out and in, but they've got to be of equal value. You can say we might be able to replace a $200,000 project with another $200,000 project, but other than that, we've got to stick to this. Otherwise, we're going to just derail the whole process of getting council back on the tracks.
Now, a speaker against, sorry, a question or you're speaking against?
It's more of a question, but I'd like to get it out of the way. I sort of had it right at the start of this. Through my mind, I'm finding a little bit what's going on a bit hypocritical. That one councillor says that we should be giving it back to the people that voted us in to show that we're not a not doing sort of council. But the people voted us in here to make a decision. I think we should be making a decision and not putting it back to the community because they're the ones that voted in. So I find that totally hypocritical that here we are, we're here to make decisions. We're not here to make half a decision and give it to the public to see if they... We've got to make a decision and get on with it. That's what I feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robertson, you speak against?
I just wanted, first of all, to ask a question to the CEO, which is that for the capital projects listed on page 11 that will either be excluded or deferred, for the projects where the bulk of the money comes from external sources, are they intended to go ahead as soon as practical, or are we going to risk losing the money? Because I think that's really important for the community to know, and even for councillors to know before they make a decision on this.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. CEO? Councillor Gray?
Of the projects that we are recommending be deferred or excluded, there's a variety. We have, in respect of those for which we will have received funding, sought extensions. In respect of the hydrotherapy pool, we have applied to extend through to June 2021. The footpath outside the keeping place, I believe I sent an email about that we can defer that until 2021, and there will be no loss of grant funding to keeping place. The outcome of the grant for the adventure playground, we've sought again an extension through to June 2021, as is similar with the hydrotherapy pool. And the Sports Council nominated projects, that's been included in the capital budget proposal. The Mother of Ducks Lagoon and the reserve, an extension is sought, and it's likely to be again similar to the hydrotherapy pool through to June 2021. The outcome of that grant is still unknown. My understanding is that we would be seeking an extension of the grant through to 2021. It's not the bike plan and the PAMP. I understand the project value is 80,000. We've sought external funding of 60,000, of which we've not yet got the outcome from, and we'll still require $20,000 of council funding. Yes. If we got the 60,000, we wouldn't be able to do it in 1920 under the current proposal. It would need to be deferred. We will seek deferral to 2021. We haven't yet known, we haven't got advice as to whether that grant has been successful yet.
Councillor Gray?
I'd just like to speak for this motion that this scenario 2 that's proposed to go out on public exhibition is one that I agree with fellow Councillor Murat and Councillor Galletley's comments, the comments of the CEO. We are in a very, very tight situation financially. Now, whether it's from decisions of the past, for whatever reason, we've run out of reserves per se. We need to build up those reserves. I, for one, cannot support a situation where we run the risk of, if anything went wrong, we would not have the funds to pay our staff or to keep the lights on, so to speak. For a council to be a do-nothing council, if by the end of this term, if we can have this council back in the black and building on those reserves, that is a huge achievement. That's not a do-nothing council. That's a do-something council, and being fiscally responsible to the community in which we owe that due diligence to. So I am supporting this motion. Thank you.
Anyone wish to speak against? Okay, Councillor Witt, is your right of reply.
Awesome. So, through all that and everything else, I didn't really have a right of reply until now. So, a few issues. With some of the questions coming out, in my advanced age, I forgot what meeting it is, but a few meetings back, we voted to have pre-meeting briefings. So the questions that have already been asked could have been asked beforehand so that we have clarification when we come in to make a vote. So whether that was a waste of time or whether the right questions weren't asked at the pre-briefing meetings can maybe be a lesson learned, and we can change our approach from that. So then from there, I'd first of all like to thank everyone for their comments. I'd like to back what Councillor Murat said. One of our issues and our big major overlying issue is to make sure that we've come in on budget, and that's what scenario 2, based out of the 3 scenarios that we were given at the pre-briefing. And I'd like to thank the council staff for providing those options for us. But we've got to look at what our main overall achievement is. And for us to be able to, as Councillor Gray said, leave something and do something, we have to be on budget. There's no point us being voted out the next election and bringing the next council in and we're behind in the money again, because that's a do-nothing council. Yes, sometimes we've got to make hard decisions. Some things have got to be deferred, which is unfortunate, because as a council you'd like to provide the best service you can for your community, which makes the community more vibrant and more attractive for more people to come here. But in saying that, you've also got to be very fiscal responsibly, and that's my understanding is, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe my youth leads me to be a little bit more optimistic, but that's our main goal, is to make sure that we're financially responsible to lead the next term and the next 10 years for the council to be able to do more of these projects, so we're not always chasing and borrowing and relying on everything else. So really, I think with what we've been given on scenario 2 is the best option for the community to go out with. The recommendation, and listening to Councillor O'Connor's concerns about the public getting a chance to have a look at it, well, the recommendation says the council endorsed the following draft documents, which is all of A and all of B from my reading of it, for a public exhibition for a minimum period of 28 days pursuant to the requirements of the Local Government Act 1993. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're voting on today, is to give them the chance to look at this, go through it all. If there's anyone out there that thinks, wow, the council has missed this, I'd like to see them do that. They're given their chance. Then, at the end of the 28 days, when it's brought back in, if there is something that jumps out of the page and say, oh, we've missed that, we can add it in. Or you've missed that, you can take it out. At the moment, all we're doing is putting it out on public, so, as was mentioned, the public can have their chance to look at it and then come back to us, and then we can have a more robust discussion around what exactly we do from there. But so, thanks.
Okay, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour of part B1? Those in favour? Those against? It's carried. Sorry, Councillor Gillespie, were you in favour? Yep, right. Now, Councillor Connor, I didn't hear you.
Could I have my dissent recorded, please?
And mine.
Moving on to B2, I don't think that needs. Does anyone wish to speak against or for that? Otherwise, I'll put that to vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Part 3 of B, that the airport apron be considered in the capital program. So, anyone wish to? I'll put that. Those in favour? Carried. Okay, part C. Anyone wish to speak for or against? Councillor Robertson?
My concern about this is that by the time it comes back to council and we have to adopt it by the 1st of July, we'll probably have precisely very few days to actually change anything that the public comments on. So all I'd like to do, is not really speaking for or against, is to express the hope that we can adopt a flexible budget, and as things change and as priorities change, because it is going to be difficult for the public to understand what's going on half the time if they don't know what projects have been included or excluded, that we take a flexible approach and look at these things as they come up and make sure that we don't lose opportunities or we don't cut off our nose to spite our face.
CEO, do you want to comment on that?
Simply to say that the council has a quarterly review of both the operational plan and the budget, and that opportunities or changes may be incorporated in those reviews at that time.
Anyone wish to speak for or against? Otherwise, I'll put that to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Part D, exhibition period come back to be presented to council 26th of June. For or against? Otherwise, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Right. So that's all done. Moving on to, there's no matters of urgent nature. Councillor Bailey.
I move that the Armidale Regional Council express deep concern at the dramatic increase in the fire service levy that will see a $150,000 increase in our charges and the negative impact it will have on our budget. We call on the state government to delay an increase till the budget year of 2020 and 2021, and in future they should provide at least 60 days notice of any increase.
Councillor Tyler, second. Yes. Okay, Councillor Bailey, you wish to...
We're always talking about cost shifting. We've just been through an election and everyone all the politicians put their hand on their hearts and say, we wouldn't do that. And within a month of election, we've been whacked with, I believe it's now been calculated at 22% increase in the fire service levy. Now, when you're in a situation where we're already paying...
Councillor Bailey, may I correct that? That's the emergency services levy, not fire.
Emergency services levy, I apologise. That we've been paying about $700,000 up or down a bit every year. This year it's proposed to go, next budget year is proposed to go up to $862,000, an increase of $150,032. Now, I'm sorry, I don't think that's acceptable. They know we're in the middle of budgets. Every council across the state is in the middle of a budget. I think it's time that we showed our displeasure, and I would encourage the Mayor and the CEO, I believe you're off to Sydney, to have stern words with our local member and with whoever else you can get in earshot to point out the fact that this is grossly unfair, and that's why I've proposed that the increase be deferred till budget year 2021-22.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Tyler, do you want to speak? Yes, sir. Can I just outline that I've already sent an email to our local member on that very issue to push this issue. That was sent out yesterday, I think. Councillor Tyler?
I strongly support the motion of Councillor Bailey, Mr Mayor. It's heartening that the local government New South Wales is onto this and making representations too, and encouraging every council in the state to do the same. Approximately 2 years ago, this same state government determined to apply this levy, but not on councils, on individual householders through their insurance policies from 1st July last year. The Property Council and others kicked up a hell of a stink, and at the last minute it was withdrawn. And now it's come back as another impost on council, and as Councillor Bailey said, we really don't need further cost shifting and unfunded mandates. It's atrocious. We're just the whipping boy, and it's so wrong. I think it's fair and reasonable that the SES services are supported by everybody that owns a house in New South Wales, and to whack it back on council and make us in effect the debt collector, the collector of the levy for all those people, is plain wrong. So I strongly support the motion and everything that Councillor Bailey said.
Speaker for the motion? Against the motion? Otherwise, by the Senate, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Okay, if there's no more matters of urgent nature, I will declare the meeting closed at, 16:38. Thank you for attending.